Hello, everybody. Welcome to Divine Guidance with Nancy Ann. I'm Nancy Ann. Um, Today's title is The Truth About Growing Up with Psychic Abilities. Whoa. But before we get into that, I'd like to say to you, I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a beautiful day, beautiful week, and a beautiful month. When you get this recording, it'll be June 14th. And guess what? The 15th, the very next day, I'll be celebrating 63 trips around the sun. That's right, 63. Yay! So happy birthday to me. And I hope everybody's doing well. It's been last month, May was pretty filled with so many different energies and a lot of us letting go of so much crap, right? Got rid of it. So hopefully the energies will be a little bit easier on us this month. Um I do see a lot of things that are going to happen, but I'll do that in another video. Today I want to share with you the truth about growing up with psychic abilities and so forth. Um was it easy? No. As a small child, seeing things and knowing things and not knowing that that was different than, my mom, my dad, or my siblings, or my cousins, or my friends. Um, and when you start learning that you're different, you become a little bit more shy, feeling like inadequacies and not understanding what those feelings are. So you're considered the sensitive child or the shy child. And it's not that you were shy, it's just that when you start to realize that other children or parents or aunts or uncles or family friends, that they don't see what you see, you kind of go inward, right? So you keep a lot to yourself. But as an innocent child at 4 or 5 years old, I mean, you're talking now that I'm going to be 63. Um, that's like 59 years of all these experiences. Um, and it was not an easy road. And it still isn't. I mean, it's better now because over these last years, so many more people, you meet people that are just like you, that share their gifts and talk about their gifts and experiences. So that's wonderful over the last, 20, 30 years. But before that, if you said, "Oh, I'm going to go see a psychic," they're like, "What? That's evil." Like everybody, for some reason, it was instilled in them um, that that was of the devil or the dark side or creepy stuff. So, when you hear people talk like that and you're just a kid, whether you be, a young child, 4, 5, 6, or a young teenager, preteen into the teenage years, you kind of start keeping that stuff to yourself. But sometimes it would just, especially as a small child, I think in the last video when I went over all the eight clairs and the visionary and this visionary slash seer, sometimes things as a child just comes out of your mouth. Um, because you're seeing it. I was able to see things like a vision, like just see them. They come into my head and I see it like you're watching a TV, you know? So that was hard to explain as a child. Um, and then my mom and dad, they have this kid that has these gifts that they don't know nothing about. And it's a little creepy when you're afraid of spirits or ghosts and you're raised in that generation of beware of the devil and the evil and all that. Um, so I guess it could be a little unsettling, right? But yeah, I mean, I was 9 years old when my nanny died, and she was very special to me. She was the only person I thought, other than Jesus, because remember I met Jesus when I was 7, that I knew loved me unconditionally. She loved everything about me, right? The singing, the dancing, Even when I was fresh, she just loved everything and she liked to bake and she was just fun to be with. So she died very young. Matter of fact, I believe she was what I am now, 62. I'm going to be 63 Monday, the 15th. Um, and that was heartbreaking. And she did come to me. I was sleeping and I got very sick when she died. It affected me physically. And I had a fever and I felt I had long, well, my hair, this isn't my natural color. My hair was light. Um, and I had long hair and she brushed, I felt her on my hand, her hand on my head and went down. I thought it was my mom checking on me because I had a fever. When I opened my eyes, it was my Nana. So, I'm 9 years old. I already know that I can see people that aren't really there that are already died but didn't understand why and how I saw them and where they really were. I just knew I could see them physically. And I hugged her and she told me she'll always be with me and that she loved me so much. And Jesus was standing behind her and I didn't want to let go of her. So it was only like a few moments, probably seconds, but I could feel her, it's that just like if you were right here in this room with me and I was to hug you, I could feel that hug. I could feel her embrace me. I could feel her love. I could feel it radiate through my whole body. And I didn't want to let her go. And she told me that she would always be with me and always be, she will always come when I call. And of course, I was 9, so I wasn't understanding exactly what she meant. Of course, I knew later on. But then I was stopped in my bed because I wanted to go with her. And they kind of faded in my bureau dresser and then went into another room. So they left, but then I could hear my father crying out, calling his mother, Mom. And my mother said, when I got later in years, that she knew that her mother in law, my nanny, was in their room. And she said, Don't come to me, please, don't come to me. Because my mother was afraid at that time of that stuff. And she didn't. But the next day after that happened, we wake up in the morning and I told my mom that I saw my nanny. Now, we weren't allowed to go to her funeral. Everybody was back then in shock. And we didn't even get to say goodbye to our nanny when we were, the kids, all the grandkids. And it was very sad. It was heartbreaking. As you all know, when we lose a loved one, it's shocking. And I explained to my mother what happened. And only how my mother knew this was true was because I described from the hair to her shoes, her dress, her makeup, every detail of what she looked like. And my mom knew there's no way that this child could have known what she looked like, at the funeral home. They didn't talk about it. They didn't even talk about her death. It wouldn't, nobody around me would talk about it. So she really got creeped out that I saw her. But, and that was just one thing that my mother went through with me. And then others were, I think I have mentioned in another video about the telephone ringing and she was upstairs doing laundry. She came down the stairs and I knew it was her friend that she hadn't talked to in like 10 years. And she gets off the phone and she's like, how did you know that was a lady named Betsy? And I was like, it was in my head, I didn't know how to explain. I was a little kid. And then other times would be in the store and I started to see auras. I didn't know what they were called. I was only a little kid. And I remember looking at this lady's aura and it was almost like I could see this thick white around her. And it was like this thick, like, I don't know if you could see, this thick. And then I saw these colors, one color here, then another color, she looked like a beautiful rainbow to me. So I'm going to my mother like a little kid would do. Mommy, look at, and I'm pointing to the lady. Mama's like, don't point, what? And I'm like, she's so beautiful. Look at the beautiful rainbow. And my mother couldn't see it, so she didn't know what I was talking about. And it wasn't like the lady was wearing a rainbow dress. So my mom was like, what? Shh, don't point at people. That's rude. And I was like, but do you see the colors? I didn't know that she couldn't see them, So anything that I saw, I just assumed that you saw it too. I was a little kid. So it wasn't until I started getting a little older and talking to my mom and her knowing, she experienced the video that how I met Jesus. If you didn't see that video, you might want to go back and see it. It's really really interesting. Um, so they went through that, and in the video I do explain at my grandma's house how excited I saw when I saw his picture, and at my friend's house. So, she was going through that and not understanding like what is wrong with my kid, you know? But yeah, I would know things. So I remember waking up. I was probably 10 or 11 because it was right before we moved to another town in New Jersey. Um so I think I was 12 when we moved there, but it was like that age, and I woke up out of my bed and I see this, like a movie. That's how it plays out for me. It's like if you're watching a movie in a cinema, and I see these floods coming in. And we did live 5 blocks in from the beachfront, which was the bay. We were about 30 minutes away from the ocean, I think, at that time, or 20 minutes from the ocean from where we lived. So we grew up, around water all the time. But, and I see these floods, and they're destroying like the whole town that we live in. And I'm like a little frantic, and I wake my mother up and she goes, "Well, just tell me in the morning. It's okay it's okay." So when we get up in the morning and she was getting us breakfast, I told her, and I said, "Mom, it's going to be bad, Mommy." And that was something that happened. It was future stuff that I was seeing. So it didn't happen when we lived there. And I really knew as a child, like seeing that, I knew I wasn't going to live there when it happened. And that's what I was trying to explain to my mother. Like, and she was just like, "No, don't worry. That's not going to happen. The water never comes this far." And I'm like, "Oh, no, it's coming way past us." And it would happen to be years later, Sandy, the hurricane we all know, especially in America, about Sandy. And that it did exactly that, that vision. And that's how old it was when I saw it, way into the future. But those were the things, like, it wasn't easy growing up having this. And then school years, how do you tell your friend, don't do this because you're going to die? Like, how do you just say that to somebody? Because you're seeing like two paths. Like, in other words, they're showing me you can tell that person, but this is the outcome. So even if I told the person, they were leaving their body and crossing over anyway. So do you really want to be telling somebody, "Listen, enjoy the rest of your day because tomorrow you won't be here"? No, I couldn't do that. But these are the things that you have to live with when you're a psychic. And you're feeling because I'm an empath also, so feeling all these different energies constantly, and then trying to figure out what is my own feelings, because I think that's his feeling or her feeling, not mine. And it's all enveloped in you, like it's all weaved through you. You feel it all. um and just knowing, like, when you're in high school or middle school, who your backstabber is, as they say, right? That was the lingo then. Um, and you know what's coming, and you can't stop it because it's supposed to play in that motion. You're ready for it, right? So all you can do is be ready for it. And then having other things happen around you, like as a teenager, knowing what was coming with relatives and who's going to die next, because I always knew when death was coming. And that was a feeling that I just knew since I was around, like when my nanny died. That feeling never left me, of knowing death was coming and then finding out she did cross over, she did die. And and also knowing that, well, they say it's death and we die, but how come I can still see them? So that was so confusing growing up. And even in my teen years, it was like, well, where are you? You know, they're in another dimension. But, when you don't grow up around anybody that talks about these dimensions and this and all the things that bring it together for you to understand, you're kind of feeling your way through life trying to learn it on your own. And sometimes they do send the angels, your guides will send people in and out of your life that give you a lesson of, well, this is what that is. And then you go, oh, well, thank you. Now I understand, with the different abilities that you have, right? So that would happen. And then one time I came out of my room, I think I was going to have lunch. And I was a teenager. So this is in late 70s because I graduated high school in 81. So it had to be like 78, 79, 80, like that. And I was looking out the sliding glass door into the yard, our backyard. And that's where the sun was. And I always knew what time it was because I would follow the sun. And one day I just picked up on, oh, the sun's here. It's 2 o'clock. When it's here, it's 3 o'clock. When it's over here, it's 4. So that was another weird thing. I don't know how I picked up on that, but I did. Um, but I look and I see the sun bouncing. It's like dancing in the sky, dancing. And I'm like, oh, ma, something's going on with the sun. She's like, what? She's cleaning the kitchen, doing something. So I jump up, go to the sliding glass door, and I open the door and I'm looking. And there, sure enough, the sun is bouncing. I called it dancing in the sky. And all that came to me was I started laughing and giggling. And I'm like, oh my God, check this out, Ma. You got to see this. She comes to the door and she goes, what? And then she sees it, but she still don't believe it. She goes, nah, somebody's playing a joke. Somebody has a big mirror out in their yard and it's making a reflection. So you think the sun is moving, but it's not. I go, that's no reflection, Ma. The sun just went from that side to here to there. Like it was bouncing. And I just watched it until it stopped. And then it spun. It did this like spin thing. And then it went woo, woo. And it was just so neat. And, the sun is huge. And I was like, oh, thank you. I didn't know who I was thanking at that time. I was only a teenager. I was like, oh, thank you. That's really cool. And I was just so amazed that I saw something like that, but it felt good. It felt like the loving beings, Mary and Jesus and God, like the universe said, let's make her shine today. Let's make her laugh. That's the feeling I got from it. It was beautiful. But with all this comes some scary stuff, right? So when I would look into people's eyes, right? I could see your soul. So I could see the soul in somebody's eyes. That started happening to me when I was a teenager. Wasn't sure why I was seeing it, but I knew what I was seeing. Sometimes I couldn't get past because I always saw the good. So even if you had told me, oh no, stay away from that person, they're bad, they're evil. I would look at the person, but I would see the good. Now, I'm to the point where now I can see through the soul and I can see darkness. That used to give me like the chills, and I would know, stay away from that person. So I did. I always listened to my instincts because I always knew that I was being guided, and I would stay away from that person. But that became creepy to me, right? And I didn't know, like, when I talk to them, are they listening to me? Can they hear me like I can hear them? Um, I just assumed they could, right? And I used to say, what does that mean? Why do they have, what is that darkness inside them? It was like, I can sense, like, the only word I can say is the word evil. Like, I can sense not good. So I used to pray for them, I used to say, help their soul, help them find the light within themselves. And not even knowing that that was actually a real thing until I got much older. So that was one thing that started happening to me. Then I was a teenager. And now mind you, keep in mind that I didn't come from a religious family. So when all this stuff was happening, yes, I did at 9 years old, after seeing Jesus at 7 and meeting my friend's family and telling them, oh my gosh, Jesus. I mean, that's in that video. If you go back and watch it, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So that did lead me to be baptized by the Methodist church. But when we moved to another town, my mom didn't have the time to take me. Her weekends were like, cleaning the house, preparing for the week, and so forth. She was always busy. And then we moved down the shore, um, and didn't know where, there was a Methodist church. I did eventually find one, but couldn't get there every Sunday. So it wasn't like I was this religious person, I was more of a spiritual person, somebody that had this connection without knowing why and or even understanding how, I just had it. But always did feel protected. That I have to tell you that throughout my childhood and life, something always made me feel protected. I felt like, how can I explain this? I felt like there was like a light shining on me, protecting me. And I don't know how else to explain it other than that. So I hope that resonates. Like, I hope that you can understand what I'm speaking about. But I want to go back for a second. When I was a child, my sister wanted to go play with this childhood friend that lived, the streets were like kind of like city streets, but like Fifth Street, Fourth Street, Third Street, First Street, Second Street, like that. But then they would have a long road, and then across from that would be the other side of Fifth Street, Fourth Street, Third Street, Second Street, First Street, and so forth. So she wanted to go where it was like a block, half a block, then down the long road to another block on the other side. And where her house was, there was these tall, oh, I don't even know what you call them, because it was like a swampy area, because on the other side of that was like water that ran extra under a bridge from where the bay was. So it was like swampy area, and it grew these white straw things, like with the tails. Oh, what do you call them? I can't remember what you call them, but they're tall and they have like a little cowtails. So you see all those, and then just regular straw weeds. And their house was here, and I still to this day remember it like clear. They had a metal fence, and I said, no, she can't go by herself there. There was something inside me telling me, don't let her go by herself. So my sister was mad. She didn't want me to come with her, but I went anyway. And I remember we rode our bikes. I remember parking the bike by the steps. It was like a two-level house, and looking towards that swampy area and seeing a dead boy. And I was like, oh, Debbie, we have to go home. That's my sister's name. She goes, no, we didn't even get in here yet. And I go, we're not staying here long because of what I just saw. And I didn't want to scare my sister, so I didn't tell my sister. We stayed for a little bit, and then I was very uneasy. I wanted to get away from that house, away from that area. I was getting to where we know now what it's called, like you're having an anxiety attack. That I was having a problem breathing. So I had asthma as a child, so I still have it, but I had it as a child. It started as a child. I said to my sister, I feel like I'm having an asthma attack. And I got her to leave. We got home, and I said to my mother, Mom, where their house is, and I told her everything that I just explained to you, and she just looks at me. I go, there's a dead boy by that bridge. Well, a couple days later, my mom found out there was a body found, a young boy dead by that bridge. I saw him. I couldn't believe it. I was so scared because they didn't know who did it. I kept telling my mommy, they do know who did it. They do know who did it. So I don't know that if that was ever solved or not, because I was only a little kid, so they weren't going to listen to me. And my mom certainly wasn't going to say, oh, I have a psychic kid. She'll tell you. She wasn't putting that out there. She was always afraid somebody was going to take me because of it or think I was crazy. But yeah, so stuff like that is what I had to grow up with. So was it fun? No, it was not fun growing up with these abilities because, for one, I really didn't understand what they were till I got older, like a teenager. And, your friends, you talk, they kind of make fun of psychics. Oh, they're fake, they're real, they're not real, and stuff like that. And so you're not going to say, no, they're real because I see things and I know things. And another time, it was like 2 weeks before graduation, a very dear friend had got a motorcycle for his graduation present, got it early. And I ran into him and I saw it. I saw the accident. So all I could say to him, because I knew the outcome was going to be the outcome, there it was just his time. But I didn't know what to say, so I said, "Don't ride your bike tomorrow. What do you don't ride it tomorrow. Take a break from riding that stupid motorcycle." And he laughed. He goes, "Oh, it's safe. I'm okay." And I didn't know how to say it, right? So I go, "Hey, you know I love you, right, bro?" And he goes, "Yeah, love you too." And that was the last time I saw him. Um, he was hit by a car and died on that motorcycle. And it was the very next day. But those things don't sit well with you because even though you're being told there was nothing I could have said or done to prevent it, in your heart you just hurt, you hurt. So you go through all these different emotions from knowing different things. It's not fun. And at that time, I didn't know how to release stuff. So when you're in high school and you're feeling all these different people's energies and emotions, I didn't know how to release them, you know? It was very hard. But yeah, those are just a few of um the things, and always seeing the lady next door when I was little, her deceased husband. He pulled up, put his old-fashioned car in that garage thing, that old-fashioned garage thing that lifted up, and tipped his hat to me and would go in the house. So if I was outside in the yard, I would see him, but he didn't, he was deceased. So it was things like that I could see through my whole life. Like when we went over my last video, if you saw it, um, it was from last week, uh, or 2 weeks ago. No, yeah, last week. Going over the clairsentience feeling, clairvoyance seeing, clairaudience hearing, claircognizance knowing, clairalliance smelling, the clairgustance tasting, clairempathy, the emotion, and the clairtagency touching, touching an object and seeing that vision of the person that's deceased or what happened to them. So that was a lot growing up that way and knowing things. I mean, there was a time when my daughter, this is now, my older years, um, and my daughter, she went and got tarot cards, and I'm like, I don't use the tarot cards. I don't know anything about them. I don't know how to read them. And she goes, "Oh, Mom, just give it a try." And her friend was there. My mom and dad were sitting at the table. So I said, "All right, let me cleanse them. I'm sure you have to cleanse them." That was intuitive for me. So I cleansed them with a white candle and I asked to be protected and, said to my daughter, "I don't like using these. I don't know anything about them." So I said, "All right, shuffle the cards and I'll see what I see." So that's when I first actually learned that looking at those cards, I don't know what they mean. I will tell you right now, I do not know what they mean, regular tarot cards, but I see things. So all I did was look at them and then I start seeing and hearing and I'm being spoken to. I'm seeing it and I'm relaying everything. So I get to this one part and I go, "Wow." I go, they're showing me the people now, like a person. So I'm like, "Oh, that's Melissa." And they're showing me her pregnant. And I start laughing. I go, "Well, Melissa's having another baby. I know she said she's done, but she's not because apparently she's going to get pregnant soon." Well, she did. And she had another boy. So it did happen, even though she said, "Oh, no, I'm done." I said, "No, you're having another one." Um, and then in that, I saw a young man. For some reason, I wasn't allowed to see his whole body like I saw Melissa, but I saw his outline. I had a gut feeling of who it was, but I didn't want to believe it. Um, and I said, "There's a young man with dark hair," and I was, given what I could see through the like shape of the person. And I was hoping that my parents or even my daughter would say what I was feeling, but they didn't. So my dad thought it was him. And I said, "No, it's not you. They're young." And he was like, "Oh, thanks a lot." And I go, "No, they're much younger than you, more like my age at that time." And sure enough, it was my cousin Jay, and who passed away 10 years after my husband, but on the same day. So that was weird. But yeah, so that wind up, and again, I was shown there was nothing I could have done. That's why they didn't show me his face, but I did know. I just, you have a knowing. I just knew. So that was another time. Then there was Easter of 2012. 2012 was like a big year because we went through a shift, and I talked about that in my other videos, but it was like really a big year. But for me personally, for Easter, my dad had developed two tumors, one on each lung, and they removed the first one, and then 8 days after, well, right after Easter, a couple days after Easter, he was going in to have the second one removed. I wasn't happy about it. So we're at the Easter dinner table, my brother and his children, his wife, me, my children. My husband had passed already. And my mom, dad, my sister, and her fiance, and her son. So we're sitting there, and I was the aunt that always, want you to be thankful for your food on your table. So I would go around and make each one of, like, whose turn it was with the children, my kids, my sister's kid, and my brother's two. So they're all waiting for see who I was gonna, pick on. And just as I was about to do that, I I was kind of like in my body but out of my body. Um Everything was like a white cloud, like foggy, and everything was in slow motion. So I kind of like was half in my body, half out of my body. And all of a sudden, I saw that one person was not going to be there the following Easter. They were going back home, crossing over. So I say this out loud. And then I watched everybody plus myself turn, and we all looked at my father. And then I was back into my body completely. And then everything was normal again. And we're still looking at my father. And he goes, "I know, it's me, right?" And I looked at him and I said, "Dad, yeah, it is you. Don't do that surgery. That's going to be the reason. Cancel that second surgery. That is going to be the reason." And he goes, "Well, I can't." And then we wound up having, Easter, put that beside behind us. And we're having Easter, and, they're laughing because of the way I make the kids when we have, dinners together. At my house, you always had to be thankful for your food. So if they ate at my house, they knew they had to do it. And then any holiday, whoever was there, they knew they had to do it. That's just, you have to be thankful for your food, and for each other. So that was a big one. And then the couple days goes by, it's time for him to go. And I got up that morning and I said, "Bye, Dad." I said, "You can still cancel that appointment. You don't have to go through this. You'll have more time." And he goes, "No, I can't cancel it. It's today." And I go, "It doesn't matter. Tell them you're sick. That they don't operate when you're sick." So he leaves, and then 8 days later, he did pass on April 18th, 2012. But before that, the Monday, he died on a Wednesday, but the Monday, his older sister, my Aunt June, she was funny as hell. She comes, wakes me up out of my sleep, and then I'm standing with her on this beautiful mountain. I mean, she did take me to a beautiful mountain. So, I mean, I can leave my body when they come and take me. But so we're standing on this beautiful mountain, and she's flitting around with wings like she's a little cherub because she was a tiny woman, right? So I'm laughing. I go, Aunt June, why are you flitting around like a cherub? So she starts laughing her laugh, just like in this lifetime. It was her laugh, her face, and then her little body, but she, flying around with these wings, beautiful wings. I said, why are you flying around like a cherub? What are you doing? Why'd you wake me up? So she says, well, I'm here to get Dickie. I said, what? She goes, I'm here to get your father. That's her brother, her younger brother. Um, oh, I'm getting the chills. So I said, you're here to get my father? And she goes, yeah, I'm here to get Dickie. His name was Richard, but they called him Dickie. And oh, something's coming through. So I go, oh, okay. She goes, yeah, I'm just waiting around. I just wanted you to know that I was here and, waiting for your father. So I'm back in my body. Now I'm wide awake. And I was like, okay, I knew it was common. But those are the things that would happen to me throughout my life. People that were going to, sometimes before they even died, their soul would come to me to say goodbye. And then, I would tell my mother sometimes, and sometimes I wouldn't. Like when it came to her mother, my Grams, um, she was in the hospital. I knew she was going to die. Her soul had come to me and let me know that she, it was time for her there, that they were waiting for her. And I said, I know, Gram, it's okay. And she, again, they tell you all the time they're always with you because they're always with us. They're like, there's this thin, very thin space between us. It's just a different dimension. And you can tap into that. But so we went to the hospital. We're all saying our goodbyes, and she whispered to me, Peter's here. He wants me to tell you hello. And I said, oh, tell him hello. And I said, I knew he'd be there for you, Graham. He's not going to let you cross over without him. And Peter was my husband. And she told me that her parents were there, and she's whispering in my ear who was all there, and that the Blessed Mother was there, and so was Jesus. I said, of course they are, Graham. Nobody's going to let you go to the other side alone. And I said, I wish I could come with you. And she goes, oh, no, you can't. And she goes, and that boy that you're dating, Peter says, do not marry him. And I'm telling you, do not marry him. Stay away from him. And they were right. I did dump his ass. But, it was just, I was just starting to date. I wasn't really, because I was still in my heart married to my husband. So that's going to be another video. I'll explain, because there was a lot of miracles during that time. Hard time, but miracles were given. But that's just, that's just, you know, some of the great things that I've seen, some of the stuff that I went through as a child and into my adult years, and, never truly understanding until I started meeting people. Like my sister's like, let's go to a psychic. And we'd go, and that psychic would say, I don't understand why you're here because you have many gifts. But she was the one that did tell me that I would be widowed very young, but I would have two of what I always dreamt of. And she was absolutely correct. I was widowed very, very young, and I always wanted daughters, and I had two daughters. So I did get what I wanted. Another time, this is the last thing I'm going to share with you, and then I really have to go. But I think you'll get a kick out of this. So when we were like 20, 21, we were going to this club on Long Beach Island in New Jersey. And I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it was called Touche, but it was a dance club, fun night out. So me and my sister were in my car, and then we were meeting her friend and her boyfriend at the Wawa. I don't know if any of you know what a Wawa is, but if you're from New Jersey, you do know what it is. So we were meeting at the Wawa because they all smoked and they had to get cigarettes. I didn't really smoke at the time. So I didn't need any cigarettes, but I said, all right, yeah, we'll just meet them at the Wawa. So my sister gets out of the car, they get out of their car, and they go into the Wawa to get their cigarettes. All of a sudden, my windshield in my car turns into a movie theater. And I'm seeing this whole thing play out. And it's my sister coming out of the store. coming around to the passenger side, open the door and peeking in and saying, Nance, come on, we're going to drive with Kim and Rich and leave your car here. It'll be safe. And then me watching us get in the car, go to the club, but then all of a sudden it switches to us coming home from the club, and they get in a severe accident. And me and my sister are bleeding from our eyes, nose, and mouth from the back seat because the back seat is no longer there. It's like an accordion, the car. It's crushed all the way up to the two front seats. So I see all this while they're in the while getting their cigarettes. She comes out, exactly plays out exactly the way I just saw it, right? She comes out, open. I said, "You're not going anywhere, and neither am I. You get in this car. I'm driving." And she goes, "What? Why'd your attitude change?" I go, "Because you have no clue what I just saw." I said, "Matter of fact, tell those two to get in my car and leave their car here. I'll drive them." And then I tell my sister what I saw. So, like I said, not always good to have these psychic abilities. She goes, "You and those damn visions." She's like, "You always got to ruin a good time." I go, "I'm not trying to ruin a good time. I'm trying to save our lives here." So she learned through me knowing to just listen, right? So they wouldn't get in my car. They said, "Oh, what are you, a witch? What do you practice voodoo?" And, making fun of me and teasing. And I didn't care because I wasn't letting my sister get killed in that car. So, or myself. So we do have a great time. Of course, there was a little, picking on me a little bit. And again, I said to them, "Leave your car here. I'll bring you tomorrow to get it. Let me drive us to," because afterwards we would all go to the diners and stuff. "I'll drive you home from the diner, and then tomorrow I'll come get you and I'll take you to get your car over here." Nope, they insisted to drive. And they thought I was being silly. I said, "Okay." I looked at my sister, I go, "You don't want to try and tell them that whenever I say something's going to happen, it actually happens?" She goes, "Well, I kind of did. They don't believe in that stuff." I said, "Okay." Well, we have the diner, they leave, we go home. A couple hours later, my sister gets a phone call from her friend. Well, guess what? Her car was totaled, just like I said, like an accordion in the back. And those two were in the hospital in the emergency room. And she said, "Geez, Deb, I'll never not listen to your sister again. How did she know this?" And my sister said she just knows. She just sees things sometimes. So that was another, so sometimes it's annoying. People get like annoyed that I can see these things. Um and also with the auras, like I never really understood the colors because I had nobody to tell me about it, but I could feel the colors. So here's an example. So just say one of my relatives, I can see that person's aura, right? And what I picked up from it is a lot of like envy, jealousy, hate, anger. Um, and I was like, whoa. So seeing those different auras and then feeling what they meant is how I kind of started learning what the darker colors or darker shades would mean opposed to the brighter shades. So like a nice like say a pastel green is totally different than seeing a darker green. The darker green is the envy and the jealousy. So, that when you see that and it's your relative and you're like, whoa, and then you know that the feelings that are inside that person are actually towards you, that breaks your heart. So there's a lot of heartbreak and a lot of confusion that goes on with having these gifts. But with that being said, right now that's all I can think about is those little things. I mean, there's so much more. I could go on for like 3, 4 hours or 3 or 4 months. But as things come up, I'll pop on here and do them because lately I've been getting actually stuff coming in from Mary and my angels. And when I do, I write it down and then I'll come on here and of course share it with everybody. But yeah, so that was It's a lot. I mean, think about it. 59 years of having this gift and having to weave my way through it. But in other videos, I'm going to share other amazing events that have happened. Um, and of course, I want to share in with my husband and the miracles that we did receive in spite of him crossing over his time being up. But they are beautiful, and I'd like to honor him by sharing it with you. All right, everybody, I wish you a beautiful day. I send you so much love from my heart and soul, um and healing and prayers. Just here's some healing for you now. I hope you feel the love and the healing I send your way. There you go. Have a beautiful day. Until next time, bye bye.